Next February, we'll be running our upcoming cohort in this part of the world between February and May 2026. And one of the upcoming events that we have is the opportunity to pitch your ideas to startup investors and experts online. This will be on the 2nd of December at 6 p.m. We've got some great mentors who will be ready to give you feedback, customized feedback. And I have a background originally as a techie, but then moved into management as well as marketing. And these days I'm a partner at Right Click Capital, where we invest in technology companies across Australia, New Zealand and Southeast Asia, including software, deep technology and IoT connected devices. Paul Krzyzewski, my fellow co-director, has many years of knowledge that has been built up through product management, and he's worked with teams both here and in other countries building really, really interesting products. And he's also got experience across 4 startups. So Paul has the product management chops, and together we are really delighted to be helping founders in this part of the world build their dream company. We're supported by Addison's, which is a well-known Australian law firm who have a practice that specialises in assisting startup founders. And Rebecca Dooley, who's a partner at Addison's, has been a very strong supporter of Founder Institute. We are joined by some other renowned mentors, including Sorel, Chris, Joanne and Matt, who have experience across fintech, across starting SaaS businesses, both here and overseas, investing. And we are thrilled that they have been some of our top-rated mentors and have signed up to help us in the cohort ahead. Some of you might be wondering, what is this Founder Institute? Well, we're the world's largest global network of startup accelerators, investors, and advisors. Now, the Founder Institute program is a part-time program. So you might have heard of things like a Y Combinator startup type weekend, or you might have heard of programs where they're a full-time residential program. Founder Institute is a part-time program, and we're a pre-seed accelerator where we help founders and teams get initial traction so that they can prepare for pre-seed funding. Founder Institute, as I mentioned before, is part of a broader community. And what we see here is founders taking part in this core program, which lasts 3 to 4 months. And after this core program, there are multiple advanced accelerators, such as the Funding Lab and the Leadership Lab. And there is also then the Founder Institute Venture Network. What is this Founder Institute called? Over the last 4 months, our founders have been getting their ideas right. They've been validating these ideas. They've been working out what is the minimum product they need to build. And then they've been challenged around how will they drive revenue with this validated product. You can see over the 14 weeks, there have been a bunch of sprints that people have taken part in. There's been research and development, pitching and testing. But you'll notice one of the things that we talk about at Founder Institute is this startup rule of 1. It's this methodology that's proven to ensure there is real entrepreneurial potential. Instead of solving 10 problems, solve 1 for 1 customer type with 1 product that has a killer feature and ideally 1 revenue stream. It's okay to have multiple in the end, but initially you want to have 1 revenue stream. We provide constant feedback. There's rating sessions, there's office hours, there's peer-to-peer working groups. And we like our feedback to be actionable, not this fuzzy type of feedback. We want for there to be dashboards for founders to get this feedback from, where there's major review sessions where people get to pitch twice, sometimes 3 times in 1 session. And then there's customized sprints. And we do this because we have, having been around for more than 10 years, having an online platform for our founders and mentors. Listen to what Gagan Biani has said, who's the co-founder of Udemy. Without Founder Institute, Udemy may have never raised any money. Founder Institute portfolio companies are around the world Look at that. And we want to make sure that in Australia and New Zealand, we continue to make impact. Some of the key benefits of accelerators and incubators, and look how much there's been this increase in the highlight of peer support, the impact of peer support. Now, after this 14-week program, our founders here are going to get a bunch of support, a bunch of alumni benefits. Founder Institute is hard. So when you speak with a family member or a friend who's been through Founder Institute and they've said, oh, there's so much pitching, they're wanting us to do all these sprints, it's so hard. It's true, it's hard. But we would suggest building a fundable startup. That's a startup that's scalable, that is going to impact thousands, tens of thousands of people, is even harder. So these are the things we do. We empower, we push for honest feedback. We want people to deliver because customers want you to deliver. One of the things, if you're interested in Founder Institute or interested in possibly exploring the founder life, why not take part in this entrepreneur DNA assessment for free? And it will tell you what is your founder personality type. I think it's super helpful. It's something I've done. And even over the years as I've done this, some of my traits have shifted. Our next cohort, running virtually, remotely, is going to be in February 2026. As mentioned before, we have an upcoming event on the 2nd of December. We'd love to see you there. And if you'd like more information, please go to fi.co/events.
I'm here today to tell you a little bit about vibe coding, vibe designing, the whole kind of like emerging vibe flow that is taking over the product and design space, and hoping to maybe leave you with a few tools and a few tips that will help you move forward with everything you're working on. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. So I'm a design-led product manager, which means I kind of bring together the world of human-centered design and product management to try and create kind of lovable product, user-centered products. I love Ben's comment before about designing for one and then going from there, just making sure that your products are really grounded in real needs, real people, real value, etc. I am, as of late, I'm a lovable ambassador. I'm actually one of two in Australia. So there's about 90 of us worldwide. They've selected about one or two from each country to try and kind of spread the lovable gospel. If you haven't heard about lovable, you'll hear about it shortly. But in general, I'm trying to help vibe coding spread in Australia as another way to get products supported and founders and designers and product managers in general supported. And I am part of the extended Founder Institute family. So I'll tell you all about it in a second. But as I said, big fan of what you do here. What we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about vibe coding and designing. Vibe coding was only coined in February this year. Vibe designing only really emerged in the past few months. It's really interesting to see how it's kind of changing the landscape of the way we build products. And I'm going to cover that a little bit and then show you how you can use it for the products that you guys are working on. If you take nothing else from today, I just want you to take this one slide. It's a very exciting time to build products and to move from concept to product. So there's a term we use in product work, which is 0 to 1. So kind of from rough concept to a tangible product, your first minimal product, etc. It's never been easier to go from 0 to 1. And it's always true every year in the past few decades. Every year has better tooling, better tech, etc., etc. So every year is the easiest time it's been to ever build a product. But something very different has happened in the past half a year to a year or so. Many of us talk about it as a paradigm shift. We still don't quite know how it will impact the market. But in the past decade, until I would say until half a year ago, until a year ago, in order to get a product, even if the most minimal MVP, you'll need a team of about 3 people, product managers and engineer, designer, etc., and about a bunch of money and about 3 months of your time to get a product created. And now you can do it in a few days to a week on your own. And it's all powered by this new tooling and new tech called vibe coding and vibe designing. And it's absolutely incredible. So I think we're going to see a lot of products, many more products come to market, many probably bad products, but also many great products. A lot of people out there that have ideas and concepts in their minds that never been able to build them because they're always limited by the 50 grand investment or by getting a tech founder, etc. You can now get quicker from 0 to 1, which doesn't solve all of your problems, but really takes you a whole few steps forward. So if you take nothing from today, it's that you are living through a very exciting time, and I'm very jealous of you. I'm not currently in the place of starting a startup, but the fact that you guys are it's great. It's the best time I think it's ever been to do so. Let me tell you a little bit about the changing landscape by way of telling you a little bit about my actual history with product, with tech, with this community that you're a part of. And then we'll kind of go from there. A little bit of my history with this space and with your community. I'll quickly show you. This is a bit of a timeline of what I've been doing in the past decade or so. If I zoom in on 2013 and 14, I was a master's student at the University of Sydney. A few students and I won a big kind of business and innovation competition, a lot of slides, a lot of business models, etc., etc. And we had a concept for putting user research on entertainment systems on planes using I can see Ben smiling, using people's spare time on planes to get them to fill in user research, etc. We had no idea what we're actually doing. We had no product experience. We were business students just working on slides and working on business meetings and MOUs, etc., etc. But we were very passionate about this concept. At some point, we actually pitched at a competition called SeedStart. Ben was one of the judges. And Ben, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember this. You actually came to us later and said, you guys should just stop pitching, A, because someone's going to steal this concept, which you don't usually recommend people to be worried about. And two, because just get working on the product and get it out there. So just like stop going to competitions, which we stopped after that, and just build this product and see if we can make it work. We did that, but as I said, we were inexperienced. We weren't yet product people. And what happened is that we end up burning ourselves out. It's hard to build a product. It's hard getting from 0 to 1. It's hard getting students to get the permission to put a software product on planes. And we kind of burned ourselves out. Coming out of it, I ended up joining GoFire. I became a go-to-market lead, which sounds very big, but really startups are small, so there's only a small team there. GoFire, as you mentioned, is part of the Founder Institute. Our founder, Danny, went through the Founder Institute cohort and came out of it deciding to work on the hardest thing in the world, which is both hardware and software. I joined them. I helped them rethink who the users were and the value props and how we are going to get it to market. We launched a crowdfunding campaign. We raised $250,000 Australian dollars at the time. We got about 1,000 users and managed to get the product to market, which was very, very exciting. And probably one of the most, teaching, interesting time in my personal career. And then after that, I kind of stepped away from startup world and went more into both agency and internal world. So for the next 10 or so years, I've worked as a product manager, as a lead product manager, helping companies go through that same process, going through that 0 to 1 process of creating new products, testing new products, etc. But all in the context of already working internally, not starting new startups and so forth. Now, a few months ago, I decided to take what I call a vibe coding hiatus. So I saw that something is changing in the market, that there's this new tech stack that people are getting amazing results from, etc. And what I decided is I made a list of every product I've ever wanted to make. And this list is actually much longer. This is just a screenshot. And I started making new products every few weeks. So I got to the point where every 3 weeks, I was able to launch a new MVP. And the more you were building, the more we became aware of what was possible and how the world is changing really quickly. I'll show you one of those products today, River, but in general, it's incredible to see what's been happening. Now, I became a Lovable ambassador a few months ago, where Lovable pretty much reached out to me and a few other people around the world, um, based on the fact that we're the most active users on the system, probably because of this list and building a lot of things. And now I'm trying to spread the gospel of vibe coding in Australia. Well, let me quickly share a little bit one of my secrets from what I've learned in the past 10 years, and then how it then takes us to the vibe coding world. So there's many things there are many secrets per se that will help you learn and will help you get to success. And I'm sure that you've learned so much of it in this cohort. One of my personal secrets is just get something built, get something tangible, and move away from the slides and the business models, etc. Of course, you need to do validation and research, but the sooner you actually have something tangible, the sooner it can grow, the sooner you can get real feedback from users, etc., etc. So my learning from Crowdflight was too many presentations, not enough product. So get something built. The moment you have it, it becomes kind of a center of gravity that pulls other things to it. And from small things, big things grow. You can eventually grow it much bigger beyond it. Now, it's nice to say that you should build something. However, the hard part is that until recently, it has been hard to get from 0 to 1. To get from 0 to 1, you needed a team of product, engineer, design, and maybe more people, and even the most efficient teams. And I know it because I've done it for the past 10 and more years in like a very, very consistent way. It will still take you a good few months to get there and a whole bunch of time and money and effort. And yet all of that has now changed because of vibe coding. Vibe coding is allowing us to work solo, get things done quickly, kill a lot of bad concepts and get the good concepts made so that you can then grow them, get a team, and get the ball rolling much more quickly. Vibe coding and designing, what it is and how it applies to you. So I'm sure you guys have been introduced to a whole bunch of different design processes in your cohorts. A lot of people talk about a double diamond. There is the lean startup method, etc., etc. This is just a simplified design process for what makes sense to me. In my approach, you move from strategy to discovery to having some kind of a concept that you then start shaping, features, users, needs, value prop, etc. Eventually, you design, you build, you pilot, you scale, and obviously you go through loops in between those. Now, the design process hasn't changed. We are still on this design process. What has changed is the tooling of what tools are at our fingertips to engage with each one of those steps. Regardless of exactly where you are, vibe coding and designing is really useful for this space. So if you are just starting to kind of shape your concept, or you've shaped it, you've done the validation and research, and you want to start designing and then building, you can use vibe coding and designing for that space. If you already have built something, and then you can use vibe coding and designing to improve what you've built, to rebuild it if you need to think about the next feature set, etc. I'll get into more of that in a second. But just in general, get a sense that you guys are somewhere here, and it's a really great place to kind of test these tools that I'm about to show you. So vibe coding in general is the application of using AI to work on this build phase, using AI for front end, for back end code, etc. And if you actually look at the definition of vibe coding, which has only been coined more or less around February, it's the use of AI to code through the use of natural language. So you're using natural language to actually write front end, back end code, etc. And you're focusing much more on the output than you are on the actual code. I've been building an enormous amount of code in the past few months. I haven't looked at the code once, or sometimes I haven't understood what I'm looking at, but I've been able to just build a lot of things because you take step by step and you're focusing on the outputs. Now, hand in hand with vibe coding, we've got vibe designing, pretty much using AI to design screens. And then you even have this concept emerging called vibe shaping, which You use the AI as a thinking partner to think about the spec, the features, the user needs, the problems in the market, etc. If you look at it here, everyone's talking about vibe coding, but really it's part of this larger piece where people are also using AI for design, for shaping, so forth and so forth. Now let me show you how you can actually use it in your day-to-day. Building your products. If you haven't built it, great. This will be amazing for you. If you've already built it, you can use it to prototype new elements in it or maybe improve the code. There are many tools for vibe coding. I am a bit biased to say that for me, Lovable is the best one out there. There's probably a whole spectrum of complexities of tools. Lovable is a really good one to get started, to get from that 0 to 1, get into that first tangible thing. And later, some people continue in it, some people move on to other tools. A lot of people start directly in here in the Lovable screen. So Lovable made a really great experience for it. You can come in here and start saying, I'd like to create a book app. I'd like to create a new music app. I'd like to create so-and-so. And now they also have a voice feature where you can just go have a yarn, explain everything that's on your mind, and start working with the AI to build it. Now, while that works and a lot of people are working on it, I personally don't recommend starting there. So in a way, think about the fact that just because we have AI doesn't mean that the design process has changed. If you right now, without AI, go from early discovery or from kind of rough concept to directly building. So for example, you have a concept in mind and you sit with an engineer and say, hey, let's start building this thing. Let me just tell you what I'm thinking and we'll code as we go. You'll get somewhere, but you might take a lot of wrong turns at the beginning. You might change your mind about a lot of things, etc., etc. So if you actually engage with some of those early steps, remember that those steps are still there on the journey, you can get a much better result from here with a little bit of work. So personally, if I talk about my vibe coding workflow, I kind of go through this process. I go from shaping to designing to building. Now, I used to just do the shaping and the designing in ChatGPT. I think the humble chat is much more powerful than we give it credit for. It can create amazing UI and it can be, more brilliant than myself and than most people I know in terms of thinking through concepts. Recently, I actually added a different tool to my workflow, Riva. So it's a tool that I've built myself for this process to help people think through their concepts in a more coherent way. Long story short, I took the many years I had in 0 to 1 product management and created a tool around it. And it comes with a bit of a workflow that helps you build your product from first principles to then lead you to designing, to then lead you to building. But regardless of the exact tools you use, if you shape a concept a little bit first, and then you go into designing, and then you go into Lovable with an explanation of what you're trying to build with some screens and some clarity around it, the results are like night and day in terms of what you're getting. And you end up getting much better, more efficient. You'll end up getting a much more effective result with less credits, cheaper, less time, etc., etc. Now, if I'll quickly, I'd like to show you Riva quickly, just so you get a bit of a feel for what I'm talking about. Is everyone okay with that? Everyone can? Awesome. So shape your product first before you build. So shape your concept, design your screens, build your product. If I jump into Riva, I wanted to show you kind of the flow of what happens. So let's say you wanted to work on a new product. Let's say that product is called XY. You can explain what it is in a nutshell. I'm not going to give all the information, but I'm just going to write gibberish in here. What you then get is a space where you've got a bunch of templates you can fill. So you can say my product name, what it is in a nutshell, the metaphor, so kind of like the Airbnb of or the Uber of, etc. What form does it take? Is it mostly mobile, mostly desktop, etc.? Then you can look at what users you're designing for, what are the needs that you're designing for these users, and you can talk about kind of overarching needs and then more specific needs. You can talk about the exact features that you are looking at. So you can talk about a feature set, and within each feature sets, add more specific features. And at the end, you can look at a bit of the structure. So the UX, UI, yada, yada. Now, if we had more time, I would actually design this on the spot with you. But since we don't, let's quickly show you an example. So if I look at this is Alexandria. So Alexandria is a book sharing platform that allows users to turn their bookshelves into a library with their friends. So pretty much I have 100 books, my friend has 100 books, I've got a bunch of friends. We can probably have a collective library of thousands of books. I've mapped out kind of who is it for. I've mapped out some of the kind of key needs that exist, keeping track of my own reading, keeping track of my own books, getting new books, etc. And then I've written a little bit about the features in this. So I'm imagining an app that has a section with the reading list, a section with the library, and a section with community, and some more specific features within it. Now, all of this doesn't take very long to do, but it's good in kind of getting the ideas out of your head. I think you're already past this point, but still it's good to kind of having the templates and the structure to do it. Now, if you do it, and this is a bit of instructions, what you can then do is you've done the shaping, you can then go through the design. I'll just quickly show you something neat. So if I then click here, generate, it gives me a prompt that gives me both a summary of the concept and a bunch of kind of scaffolding to get the best result from AI. And if I just open it in ChatGPT now, and just gonna quickly, there's vibe experiments. If I just post this prompt, so it's a very large prompt, kind of goes on from take a role, what is the task, what's the context, and eventually it gets into the product overview. It will start designing for you. Sometimes it will ask you some clarifying questions. I'm kind of a bit worried that it didn't ask me a clarifying question, but maybe the information is just enough there. And very often you'd be surprised that if you give enough structure, enough shaping, you can get some really good screens. And once you see the screens, you can actually decide that's not quite what I wanted. This one I liked. Chat might come with new features that you think are great. Then you can go back to Riva, kind of like change the features you have, change the structure. But by not spending too much time shaping first and then designing, and I'm just trying to see what it's coming up with, you end up getting a lot of great content that will set up you for much better vibe coding. Now, as it's quickly designing something, anything on people's minds? Got it. Riva doesn't currently have a Kanban, but in a way, no, it doesn't have a Kanban. But if I just quickly show you Riva, you can see on the left all the products you might be working on, and then you're just kind of going through the different things. The reason it doesn't have a Kanban is because you don't have to fill up all the sections. Even just a little bit of information can take you a really long way. But the more information you fill, the easier it is for an AI to work with you. So this is an example. We just got a screen from ChatGPT. What you can do is I can actually download this. If I then go back to Riva, I can actually go to build. I can generate another prompt, which is more designed for vibe coding. I can then open it in Lovable, so it's in my clipboard, and I can attach the image we just got. So now going through that workflow ends up setting you much better up for what you're doing. So you're giving a bit of a role, a task, a context, all the information about the app, and then you're even giving some visual elements to the prompts to explain what you're looking at. And we don't have time to go through the whole process, but long story short, if you then press, go, it will have so much easier over time, a much more easy time to help you build your thing. Now, I'm just going to leave it here to think for a moment. Once you're actually in Lovable, there are many tips and tricks that will help you get the better result out of it. So for example, as I said here, I'd recommend shaping and designing first. having good prompts, such as from Riva or from anywhere else. If you're working with ChatGPT, you can ask for much better prompting for a particular tool. We often recommend to actually look at the UI first. So ask for no front end, no back end, and it's in the prompt we just gave Lovable as well. And then once you get the UI right, you can build all the back end. Often it's good to kind of go one screen at a time so that it doesn't try and build the whole app. A lot of people that go into vibe coding straight away, they give they don't give the constraint of building one screen at a time. So the AI tries to build the entire app, and then you end up just having a lot of wrong, taking it low. Ends up taking a lot of wrong turns. And yeah, there's many tips and tricks for how to get a much better result from Lovable. Now, if we go back into Lovable, what it's doing is I've actually asked it to give me a few different recommendations. So a lot of people talk about one-shot prompts to avoid that. So if you ask the AI to give you a few options, it will consider what it might, like what are the different ways you can go about it. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say, I just want the UI first, design the first screen. We'll go from there. And again, we don't have the time to go through the whole process, but based on this, it has enough information. It can make the first design. We can tweak it. Once it's ready, we can go to the next design, the next screen. And once it's more or less ready, we can start adding the back end and actual proper functionality. Now, I'll just leave it for a second, see if it comes up with something nice. And I'll just wrap up this part to say that, look, my vibe coding workflow is as such. Now, these are just my selection, my recommendation of tools, but there are many tools out there. Some people prefer shaping with ChatGPT and just getting a prompt directly from there to vibe coding. Some people they shape the concept in ChatGPT, then they design it in ChatGPT, and then they build. Some people use ChatPRD. There's many tools out there that are helping people think through their concepts. There are many tools out there that are working with vibe designing, such as Stitch from Google, such as UX Pilot, which is a really great tool that I also recommend looking at. There are many other tools other than Lovable that you can use for vibe coding. But all in all, that's just a tooling question. The real takeaway from today is that you can now shape a concept, design it, and then build it all within a space of a week. Now, it doesn't take away the fact you need to do research and validation, etc., hence all of these loops. But the fact that you can now, once you've done your research and validation, do this within a few days, a week, a few weeks, is a whole paradigm shift compared to where we've been even just half a year ago and where most of the industry still is. Most of the industry is taking more than 3 months or around 3 months to build it. And we're not in that world anymore. What can you use it for? You can use it for building brand new products. You can use it for building brand new feature sets, and you can use it for prototyping tweaks on existing feature sets.
I was just wondering about just owning the IP, and is it normally used just to test ideas and validate traction? And if you were to build something even more complex, do you bring developers in that are willing to build on top?
The IP is owned by you. It's just a tool. So like when you design in Figma, Figma doesn't own your designs. If you
Oh,
design
great.
in Lovable, you still
Yep.
design, like you still own your own product. In
Yep.
terms of what do you use it for, it's great for prototyping, and a lot of people prototype in Lovable. However, it's also great for actually building products. So you are now at a point where you can build your MVP in Lovable, and you can actually make it quite complex before you need to go to another tool or to actually bring engineers.
Okay.
The whole question around bringing engineers, it hasn't changed. You still need engineers. It's only that you might be able to build an MVP, get to 1,000 users, validate your thing, and
Yep.
then bring engineers to build the beta of
Yeah.
a product. And can they build on it, or do they need to start from scratch? I've seen both. So some engineers are working with the existing code and building on top of it because the toolings have gotten pretty good. Some engineers would prefer scrapping it and starting from scratch, but they already know what they need to build.
Would I have to be writing out like a scope like I would for engineers currently and put that in?
It all depends. If you're working just with ChatGPT, talking through your concept, you can just at the end say, hey, I'd like a summary of this as a prompt for Lovable or a prompt for Cursor. If you're working with Riva and you're just filling in all the boxes, it already creates all the scope for you. So yeah.
Oh, great.
And you can edit those things, etc. So if I look at Riva here, I'm using the left nav here for brand new products. So I'm working on a whole bunch of different experiments, but you could just use it as a roadmap in the sense of like write all the different feature sets themselves and then organize it. You can actually use vibe coding to create new features in existing products. So some really fun things I've been doing lately is I've actually been taking Lovable. So I'll take screenshots of Lovable and I'll feed it to Lovable to say, I'm thinking about this new feature set I want to test on in this particular section. Can you create it for me? And it will just create a interactive prototype of the existing product with the thing. I've sent it to the team in Sweden to be like, what do you think about this? And none of them have actually been built, but the fact that you can do it is very exciting. I just wanted to show you that like we took the screen from ChatGPT, we gave it to Lovable, and now Lovable has actually created not a perfect version, but a version of what we're looking at. So we have the sections down the bottom. We've got the read, like to read and reading, the reading cards. All of this is almost exactly to the spec I gave it using Riva. And the only reason the other things are not active is because I asked it to only create one screen to start with so that I can tweak it before going everywhere else. And this will be, once you work through it, this can support thousands of users. At the moment, Riva itself is a Lovable built product. Like I built it using Lovable, and there's about 1,000 people going through it, and it's not crashing or anything. So it's crazy. What you can now do with vibe coding and designing just is completely mind-blowing. I'm running an event tomorrow for those that are in Sydney. It's called Bondi Vibes. Pretty much we're just taking over space in Bondi and we are turning it into a bit of a vibe coding hub. People are just coming to work on brand new concepts or concepts they're already working through for a while. We'll have food, we'll have drinks, we'll give you a space. A bunch of us mentors are going to be roaming around, and it's just a nice space to work on your concept. I'll be running a whole bunch of these over the next few months. So yeah, big believer in what we can do with product in Australia. Big believer in the new tooling.
Next February, we'll be running our upcoming cohort in this part of the world between February and May 2026. And one of the upcoming events that we have is the opportunity to pitch your ideas to startup investors and experts online. This will be on the 2nd of December at 6 p.m. We've got some great mentors who will be ready to give you feedback, customized feedback. We'd love to see you there. And if you'd like more information, please go to fi.co/events.